Salutations, allies, to the Puzzle table. My name is Ramble, and usually I know you guys are, I know you're confused about the title, but because I usually do game reviews. But since it's a new year and I like a lot of movies, might as well shake things up a little bit, you know. So, welcome to hopefully for the first of I know it's gonna be first, but let me rephrase that. Welcome to what's going to be the first of hopefully a lot of movie reviews. I watch a lot of movie reviews on YouTube, so might as well do my part, I guess. But anyway, for the first episode, we're going to start with a pretty obscure movie to find. I don't know. For those who watch a lot of movie tie-ins based off of a book, they they don't do that well, but most people think about crap like, well, Twilight. don't. I know I'm gonna be flamed in the comments for that one. So, oh well, for hating Twilight, but seriously, the acting is terrible. Anyway, today's movie for the first review is a movie that not a lot of people have heard of, but it was on Netflix a couple of years ago, but I really enjoyed it. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. It says, it's about this guy named Eddie, well, back basically the kids, he worked at this carnival, and the kids there called him Eddie Maintenance, because he was the maintenance guy there, and he was like in his 80-something. I really don't know how, it doesn't really state how old he is. I don't remember much about the book, I only read it once. But anyway, it basically starts with, well, Eddie, the last hour of Eddie's life, basically. I know, weird concept, but it's actually a pretty good book. It's a pretty good book. It basically starts off with Eddie dying. And rather than having Eddie, well, just die at the very beginning and be a really short book, it basically takes him to, well, meet the 5 people you meet in heaven, hence the title. And it sounds a bit weird, like, he didn't, but the reason he died was because in the book there was this thing called, there was like, if you've ever been to King's Island, there's this thing called drop zone, where it like drops you from like a few stories high. Because of the book, I kind of fear that right now, even though I don't like amusement parks to begin with. Anyway, basically, Freddy in the book is called Freddy's Free Fall, but the movie's called something else. I don't remember what it's called. I really didn't pay that much detail to it, but anyway, it's been a while since I last watched it. But basically, Freddy's Free Fall, well, in the book it states there's this kid, Evan, Gabe. They don't state it in the movie. But he basically, there was this key stuck in the mechanism and the cable, and it kept fraying the cable every time it dropped. And thankfully, there was no one on the ride. They managed to get all 4 patrons in the movie. They got all 4 patrons who were on the ride off just in time. But Eddie, Eddie tried calling his coworker. I forget the coworker's name. It's been that long. But anyway, basically he calls his coworker not to release the emergency brakes because the cable would snap. And then Eddie sees a little girl he was tending to. He was helping. He made a little pipe cleaner bunny for, and Freddy's free fall, the chairs literally fall. Eddie drops his cane, grabs the little girl's arms, and well, you can imagine what happened next. But for the entirety of the book, Eddie is trying to figure out, did he save the little girl's life? Was his death all for nothing? You don't know until the final chapter. And I gotta give props to Mitch Albom, the author of the book. That's a good way to add tension, and in the movie they do the way that Mitch Albom wrote it is how the director, does not say he directed this, but anyway, the director definitely did a good job on how to build up that much tension into Eddie's, well, sad demise. But anyway, but that's how the book and the movie starts. Literally within the last hour of Eddie's life. Sure, there are some flashbacks here and there, but in the movie at least, but yeah. And then Eddie basically saw nothing about his death, and basically he felt his spirit leave his body, and then everything was black, and then he woke up. Honestly, in the way the cinematography is in the movie, it's amazing. So in the book, the first person Eddie meets in heaven was a guy who Eddie met in his childhood. But the interesting thing about this guy, you can probably tell on the front cover, right there, he has blue skin. Probably couldn't see because of my finger. Let me try it again. The dude has blue skin. Apparently he was a circus freak where he tried to off himself with some chemical. I don't know what he drank, but instead of killing him, it turned his skin like as blue as my walls. Literally that blue, maybe a little bit darker. And basically, Eddie was involved in his life because. Oh, by the way, this review is gonna have a bit of spoilers. If you haven't read the book, and if you haven't read, and if you've seen the movie, I probably wouldn't watch until like a certain time. I don't know when. I give it like 2 minutes before the video ends, just to be on the safe side. If you haven't watched the film, skip ahead to like 2 minutes before the video ends. Okay? Okay. So the blue guy was apparently involved in Eddie's life because Eddie sadly killed him. It wasn't his fault though. Like, he was just a little kid. He was playing soccer, or no, not soccer, baseball with his friends out playing catch with baseball outside. Sadly, the blue guy was driving and Eddie walked in the middle of the road. He swerved, crashed into a fruit stand, and since he had a weak heart attack. Yeah, it was in the way that the blue guy, whatever you want to call him, we'll just call him the blue man. The way the blue man acted was pretty much on par to someone, which pretty much, it was alright. It was pretty good, actually, in the movie at least. And Eddie, unfortunately, being a child, was complaining that it was his birthday, he didn't want to go wear dress shoes to a funeral. And his dad, being, well, mean, pretty much slapped him on the forehead, pretty much slapped him on the back of the head, and told him to shut up and get over it. Yeah, it turns out the funeral he was going to was the blue man's. So yeah, the lesson, and with each person he meets in heaven, there's a lesson to be learned. The lesson exactly for the blue man, I don't remember. I probably should have done research on that. Oh well. So basically, the next person Eddie met in heaven was, he fought in World War II. Well, basically Eddie fought in World War II, and it was his army captain. The dude's name, I don't think they stated in the book or movie at all. But basically, it was back in World War II where Eddie had to be on a cane, like I mentioned earlier. Eddie remembered that when he fought in World War II, he was apparently a POW along with his team. And they decided, and Eddie and his team decided to escape that camp, the prison camp, when one of their guys got a fever and the captive captors. People who held them prisoner. I don't know what they're called. Basically, pulled out a gun, and rather than helping him, he pulled out a gun and yeah. So that night, they planned to escape. Killed a bunch of killed their captors. Captors. That's it. I think. I don't know. Killed the people who held them prisoner, and well, they planned to escape. Eddie, back to that, the captain thought he was hallucinating. Eddie claimed he saw a little kid in a burning building. He burned down himself with a flamethrower. And after knocking a dude out, he tried walking into the flames himself, where he got shot. Turns out, you find out a few minutes later that the captain shot Eddie. Yeah. Major plot twist there. I was not expecting that. Basically, Eddie was a bit pissed, so with the captain's heaven, he pretty much tried to beat his face in and the captain basically said, "I took your leg to save your life." And Eddie realized a detail that he didn't realize with the captain. The captain didn't look a day older from when Eddie last saw him before he got shot in the leg. Reason why? They were about to escape their prison camp when the captain moved forward, and while in the movie there were two of other soldiers helping Eddie with his bleeding leg and keeping his eyes open, the captain scouted ahead to, well, look for, see if there's any other, like, prison captains. I don't know what they're called. Still don't know. And while looking up to see some U.S. planes, the captain, unknowingly until it was too late, stepped on a landmine. Yep. By the time he realized it, well, it was too late. Let's just say it was too late. They basically had to take what was left of him, well, whatever, if there was anything left of him, back to America to help. Well, you get the picture. So basically, after learning the captain's lesson, again, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've watched the movie and read the book. I'm sorry. He went to this old diner in the middle of scenic, woodsy nowhere. Eddie was confused, and then in the diner window, he saw his abusive, not there for him father. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that in the book either. But then there was this finely dressed old lady who was like dressed in like typical 1950s rich lady clothes. Like, she was holding a parasol, so you know she was fancy. What am I talking about? Imagine Rose from Titanic, only elderly. Like, the opening scene where you see Rose from Titanic, only with Rose the day she died. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so apparently the girl, well, her name, probably I should have mentioned this before, but the carnival Eddie was working at was called Ruby Pier. I probably should have stated that earlier, but anyway.
There you go.
Sorry, we have a guest over. I'm recording in my room. So anyway, with basically this girl who she talked about a diner. She worked at a diner, and then she met her soon-to-be husband, who was basically planning on opening a carnival. And he would make the carnival in his soon-to-be wife's image, with a giant walkway, like sconce. I don't know what to call it, but like a giant entryway with like her face. I'm recording. with her face in the center. If you probably couldn't tell right now, sorry, I had my dad yelled for my name, but I'm recording. So if you couldn't tell right now, by now, the elderly lady is Ruby, the namesake for Ruby Pier. Honestly, wasn't expecting that, TBH. But anyway, basically, Ruby, well, she basically, her and her husband, I don't remember his name, I really should have done research on this, owned Ruby Pier for many years, until an unfortunate fire. Lit like a Roman candle. Yeah, they basically lost all their money, and they basically sold the company they basically sold the carnival to another person. I don't think they stated whom in the name or in the book. But anyway, so basically Ruby, well, she was in a, so you're probably wondering, what does Ruby have to do with Eddie? Well, a few years pass, and well, Eddie gets a flashback of getting a phone call from his mom saying there's something terrible happened to your father. Yeah, it turns out his father and his good friend Mickey, who not Mickey Mouse or Mickey Rooney, Mickey something, Mickey something, I don't know his name, basically fought in the water for a while because Mickey was drunk and tried to, I don't know what happened. I don't know do something with his wife. I don't want to go into deep details of that because before Mickey could do anything, Eddie's dad walked in, and yeah, as you can no doubt tell, Mickey tried to drown himself in the ocean. When Mickey and his dad Eddie's dad jumped in after him. Yeah, his dad ended up getting pneumonia. They fought in the water for that long at night. So then, basically, while at the hospital, well, Ruby and her husband, who is dying of old age, were apparently right next to Ruby's husband was right next to Eddie's dad in the same hospital room, apparently. So that's how Ruby knows Eddie and his family. When he found out that Eddie's dad died of pneumonia, well, and she learned about his job at Ruby Pier. So her heaven is a place that's far away from people's troubles as much as possible. And basically, I remember this lesson, basically don't hold grudges against against friends and family. So basically, Eddie made amends with his father. And then basically Eddie was transported to another heaven. The fourth heaven is where there seem to be a lot of weddings. Oh yeah, I should probably explain the weddings. The other first two heavens, I forgot to mention that. First heaven was Ruby Pier, but in like the olden days, where Eddie's childhood was. Second heaven was during a war zone, literally a war zone, but then turned into a tropical paradise somehow. Some pretty mediocre CG effects in the movie. Third heaven, a diner in the middle of nowhere, in a wintry, woodsy nowhere. Fourth heaven, it seemed like every room you pass, every doorway you enter would be another wedding. And that is where Eddie, well, I cry every time I see this scene. I get all emotional. It's where Eddie sees his late wife, Marguerite. Not to be confused with Margarita, because that's an alcohol, and yeah. Anyway, I tried to be humorous. I think I failed. So anyway, with Marguerite, she learned, basically Eddie and Marguerite talk about their love life and how they were married until Marguerite's sad end. Yeah, it explained it in the book, but not in the movie. They never had children because, well, they were planning to adopt. It says in the book that they were planning to adopt. But then Eddie, one of the basically was in a slot car race, or a derby where you bet money, and he was gambling money. So Marguerite drove over to Eddie when she crashed, and got some sort of laceration on her abdomen or something, or a deep cut on her chest or her stomach. Yeah, it turns out. So basically, the money for adoption ended up being paid for a hospital bill. Yeah, I was I was like, oh, when I first read that, I was upset about that. But then it got sadder because I guess. I don't know. Not to be. I thought it sounded like I said Saturn, which was weird. It got a lot more sad when Marguerite gets diagnosed with a cancer. Now, that kind of hit close to home for me because I've mentioned Chloe in the past, who, yeah, suffered the same fate as Marguerite, but yeah, it kind of hit close to home for me. Like, you have no idea. Anyway, sorry, I was checking the time. Anyway. So basically, Marguerite dies of her tumor, and yeah. So basically, Eddie, oh, by the way, I meant to mention this earlier, but Eddie is played by Jon Voight in this movie, whom most people know as Angelina Jolie's dad. Fun fact. Just for those who don't know, he's the Angelina Jolie's dad. Anyway, meant to mention that earlier. Anyway, so basically, with the fifth heaven, he ends up in this stream. I'm not sure what it was. Let me check how many videos I have left. Okay, 6 minutes. Crap. So with Eddie meeting in the fifth heaven, he was in some sort of river where some Oriental kids were, well, cleaning each other's clothes. And he met this fifth little girl, who was the fifth person he was supposed to meet. And major bombshell of a plot twist, the director pulled an M. Night Shyamalan ding dong. Turns out there was a little girl in the house that Eddie burned down. And he killed her. Eddie, as well as me, as well as I'm sure me and the other audience, were like, who haven't read the book, were like, yeah, as you can know, I would tell. Anyway, so basically, Eddie basically washed away her wounds, and yeah, it was very emotional, and by the way, by that point, the fifth person he met, up until the fifth person he met, he saved every person he met. There was this little girl I was trying to save. I tried pulling her out of the way. Did I save her life? Did I pull her out of the way? He asked the little girl. She said, no, and he was like, oh. I was like, oh man. But then she said, no pull, push. Yeah. So it turns out Eddie, instead of grabbing her hands and pulling her out of the way, pushed her out of the way and saved the little girl's life. That sacrifice to basically. So basically, his sacrifice wasn't worthless. I was happy to hear about that. However, but then Eddie was confused because he was like, I grabbed her hands, and then the little Oriental girl was like, no, not her hands, my hands. So Eddie grabbed his hand. Basically, the little girl grabbed Eddie and took him to heaven, or something symbolic. I don't know. It's blowing up my phone. Okay, it was my older sister. Sorry. So basically, Eddie grabbed the little girl's hands, and and she basically said, you keep everyone safe, Eddie Maintenance, because you know he worked on as a maintenance guy. And yeah, Eddie is transported to his heaven where he keeps all people in Ruby Pier safe. In the movie, he met the blue guy who had a regular skin, his military captain, the little girl on a Ferris wheel, or no, not Ferris wheel, merry-go-round, and his wife was waiting for him in the Ferris wheel. And it turns out the narrator of the story was Ruby. I should have realized that because I was like, wait, they do sound familiar. But yeah, basically Eddie couldn't have been. Eddie was happy in his heaven, and yeah, I was really happy with this movie, as you can no doubt tell. Now, I know. Now you know. Guys are probably wondering, Samplot, out of all the movies you could have picked in your library of movies, why did 5 People You Meet in Heaven first? Because I just found out a few days ago, Mitch Albom, the author of the 5 People You Meet in Heaven, made a freaking book sequel. And I saw that at like a Meyer or something, and I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't have enough money to buy it though. It was called The Next Person You Meet in Heaven. And I was wondering, does it continue with Eddie's story? I don't know. Don't put any spoilers in the comments. Now, if you guys want me to review that book, and I hope now, I know this video was a bit different, but yeah, but hey, this YouTube channel is all about diversity. But if you enjoyed this video and would like me to review the next person that you meet in heaven, the sequel to the book, to the Mitch Albom, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, drop a like you're dropping the bass. Wah, wah. Give the subscribe button the old smizzity smack. And I'll see you fellow nights in the next video. Dudes.